so that we have all the sessions. And again, just welcome to our this year Macrobiotic Online Summer Conference. And in terms of recordings that are going to be available, the recordings for each session usually will be available the next day, maybe 2 days after. I'll do my best to upload them as fast as I can. If sometimes, you know, a lot of other things are happening, then, or sometimes processing takes longer than expected, so it may take up to 2 days, but usually I try to have the recordings from each day available the following day. And again, I'll do my best on that. All right, and let's go to Alex, I think, next. Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Bettina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone, from the beautiful Berkshire Mountains in Western Massachusetts. I hope all are safe and sound. And on behalf of Planetary Health Incorporated, the nonprofit sponsor of this event, I would like to welcome you to what promises to be an informative, exciting, and unforgettable gathering. Planetary Health started just 20 years ago this summer. Its first project, the Amber Waves Grassroots Network, strove in the early 2000s to organize farmers and the natural foods community against GMO rice in the Sacramento Valley in California, ground zero for organic brown rice cultivation in our country. Many health and environmental groups joined our campaign, which included petitions, books and articles, Earth Day talks, and music festivals. And we succeeded in preventing Monsanto from releasing GMO rice. We then turned our focus on wheat and also foiled Monsanto from introducing genetically engineered wheat. Since then, the country has been GMO rice and wheat free. It shows what a relatively small, committed community of people can do to affect peaceful social change. When the Kushi Institute closed in Beckett in 2016, our core faculty continued the annual Macrobiotic Summer Conference under the auspices of Planetary Health. We moved the conference to Eastover, a beautiful eco resort in nearby Lenox, and for the last 3 years have held the conference on its spacious campus. Eastover even remodeled a teaching kitchen and classroom for us that we call the Miso Happy House. Hopefully next year, we will be able to return to Eastover and resume live classes. This past year, Planetary Health also initiated a macrobiotic medical research study in cooperation with the Berkshire Medical Center, the region's largest hospital. The study will focus on improving the diets of type 2 diabetes patients, and we have organized a fundraising campaign to gather the necessary funds. The study will commence as soon as we reach our goal and as soon as the current COVID crisis subsides, hopefully next spring. As you know, diabetes is a major risk factor for coronavirus, and a successful patient study of this kind could be a template for other hospitals and integrative medical centers in the future. Please check out our new website, www.planetaryhealth.com, for news and further information on these activities, as well as our online shop with the latest macrobiotic books and other gifts.
All right, thank you, Alex. I'm doing a number of things here simultaneously. So one other thing that I would like to make you aware of, in the Zoom format, if you, in my case, it's on the upper right corner, it may be somewhere else for you, but there is a choice of having speaker view or having gallery view. When you have speaker view, then the main speaker is in a big screen. Otherwise, you see lots of little squares with all the people. So that is a choice that you can make on your end, which format you would prefer. And let me just see, Ed, I'm trying to unmute you.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right. Let me know when.
You are good.
We're live. Okay. As Alex said, welcome to all. Just before we went official, we had a chance to see the friends who are participating in this conference. And I can say, everybody looks terrific. Everybody looks vital, energetic, and is radiating the beautiful energy of summertime. So congratulations to you, and I hope that you're enjoying this beautiful summer weather. We're doing the conference this year in August rather than July. And already since the summer solstice in June, we've lost 1 hour of sunlight. So even though the temperature is beautifully warm and our gardens are lush with produce and wonderful things to eat, already the atmosphere is becoming a little bit more downward, I should say, not down, but downward. And so it's a perfect time to meet. It's a perfect time to study. It's a perfect time to plan for the future. This conference, Macrobiotic Summer Conference, began, believe it or not, 45 years ago. And I think Leno and Jane were at that first conference in Amherst College. Maybe some of you were also there. And it's continued every year up until the present. But this year, as a macrobiotic tradition, but this year is the first year that we're doing it entirely online. And very fortunately, Planetary Health made the transition to online education before the COVID crisis happened. And that was largely due to Bettina and Alex's effort with the Macrobiotic Winter Conference, which was held, I believe, 2017, right? The first one, or was it 2018? I forget.
I think 3 years.
Okay, yeah. So when we were not sure up until what, maybe May of this year, whether we could still do it live this year or we had to go online. So when we made the decision to go online, everything was set up, including the Zoom platform and the formatting and everything. So it was a fairly smooth transition for Planetary Health. But we're hoping again to get back to a live format next year. In other words, meeting at Eastover the way we have done the last 3 or 4 years, and then also the way we've done since 1975 in terms of the summer conference itself. This is the premier global gathering with students and faculty from around the world, many of whom you'll meet this week. And it's important, it's always important, but especially now that we gather, we meet, and we create community and study together. And in the past, we were able to do this in person, face to face, and now we're doing it online virtually, and that's fine. And we'll be adaptable and flexible as the circumstances in society change, we'll change and adapt successfully and continue with our dream under any circumstance. So what we're doing here this week is we're having two things, actually. We're having a shared practice, and that is our individual, personal, day-to-day practice of macrobiotic eating. In other words, plant-based whole foods eating day after day. And we're sharing that. And actually, we should celebrate that together. So in our cooking classes and discussions, that will always be there as our background, our shared universal practice. And then in addition to that, we're expressing our what I call shared vocabulary. In other words, our study of yin and yang and the order of the universe as it applies to everything. And again, celebrating that study because it's a fascinating study, it's a fascinating learning and discovery experience. So that is, in essence, what the summer conference is about. Okay, so at the present, as we know, we're now doing online and virtual classrooms and forums. They will happen throughout the week. And again, future, we're hoping for the actual physical get-together, the live conference resuming hopefully by next year. Let me ask everyone, how many senses are involved of our 5 senses in our online studies? How many of our 5 senses are we using primarily for this? Anybody? Can anyone answer? Sorry, we're doing a little
Donna is showing 4.
4. Donna, do you have some extra powers that we don't know about? Please tell us. Which 4?
Please unmute yourself. Eyes, ears.
Palma
says 2.
Oh my gosh, okay. Please discuss amongst yourselves, okay. Actually, guys, we're using basically 2 senses, like Palma said. Our visual sense we're seeing on the screen, and then also our auditory hearing sense. And the seeing sense is actually a 2-dimensional screen, flat screen, you know, like flat screen TV. So again, it's wonderful. The good part is we can do it from anywhere in the world and meet together without the inconvenience of having to travel to some central place, even far away. So that's a good point. The downside is that it's, again, only exercising 2 of our senses. That means our 2-dimensional sight, flat screen, and hearing. Whereas when we get together, we have all 5 senses operating at full capacity. So we have sight in 3 dimensions, hearing, again, in a 360-degree, the auditory platform. But not only that, we also have in our cooking classes, for example, smell, taste. In our exercise and bodywork classes, touch. So in other words, all 5 senses are deployed in full the capacity when we get together. So let's hope. Yes, let's continue online education, no question. The present day demands it, present world situation demands it. But let's strive and hope that we can all meet together again next year for the live summer conference. But in any case, let's enjoy very much our online virtual platform. You're going to learn so many wonderful things, meet so many wonderful people, and have a chance to share and express and experience your oneness with your community here and rediscover your community during this week. So thank you again, guys, and welcome. Let's have fun and let's really enjoy. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
George Osawa.
That was Edward Esko.
Real.
I was channeling George Osawa. Sorry, Ed Esko. Who are you, by the way?
That is Joanne Goldman.
I think I met Joanne back in the 70s. See, Joanne, you don't remember that really handsome guy that you met back in Brookline, right? She doesn't remember? Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Great.
So then let me talk just for a moment about our schedule for tonight, and then I will also talk a little bit about the schedule for the week. In a moment, as I said, I'm going to talk about the highlights of this week's schedule, minor schedule changes that have come up. Then Ed will introduce Kale Louro, who will share a few memories of Michio Kushi with us. Then after that, I will do a very short cooking demo, making some wonderful summer rolls. And then Alex will talk a little bit. We will, after that, also introduce Donna Clifford and Mark Leonas, who will be hosting some free discussion sessions during the week. Then we will open it up to question and answers, and we will finish up after that. So that is the plan for this evening. And give me a second here. Let me, I believe this is it. Let's see. Can you see the schedule that I put up? Can everybody see it? Okay.
Yes.
So obviously we are on Wednesday tonight, the welcome and intro session. Tomorrow morning at 9, we will have David and Nicola McCarthy from the UK making wonderful dishes. And by the way, with each invite, the recipes for the dishes are also in the Zoom invite, so you have them as well. So they will be doing summertime Mediterranean cooking. Then after that, there will be a lecture by myself, developing your natural immunity. Then we will have one of those free discussion sessions. And actually for the free discussion session, there will not be a separate Zoom invite. That will be just the extension of my lecture, basically. So, but the free discussion sessions that are hosted by Donna Clifford and Mark Leonas, or one or the other or both, this is really the platform for you to interact with each other, because we have found in the past that there is sometimes a need to just, share amongst each other, that you wish to, share this or that, which doesn't quite fit into the class time. But so that way there is some space to just freely interact amongst all of you. And I'm sure that is a really wonderful time, and a lot of good, maybe new ideas can come up, or, new information can be passed along. In the afternoon tomorrow, we'll have Loribel Lopez, who was also at the Kushi Institute for a long time, but now has moved back to Puerto Rico. She is a mother of a very cute young child, girl. But she is going to prepare some dishes traditional to her background from Puerto Rico. And she would have been had we had the conference in person, she would have been our chef in the kitchen, head chef in the kitchen. And so we were really looking forward to having her, but not happening this time. But we will have her expertise in a cooking class. And then in the afternoon, Tom Monty will be talking about searching for unity and how we can find it. And after that, initially, there was a Douyin class, but we changed it to Ruby Aver, who is a longtime teacher of Tai Chi and Qigong, and she will share some Qigong, Qigong basic principles that can be done by anybody, everybody, that is really important for health and building our Ki energy or Chi energy, whatever prana energy you want to call it. And then in the evening, we will have the health symposium, and we've gone through a number of incarnations with that. So Dr. Martha Cottrell will be on, but also Donna Clifford, who is a registered nurse and working in a hospital in Boston. Also Gail Stoloff, who is also a registered nurse, Judy McKenney, a longtime macrobiotic teacher and cancer survivor, and Evan Root, who has a special perspective on health and healing. So it will be an interesting symposium with a lot of information and also the opportunity for questions and answers. Then on Friday, we'll have Warren Kramer teach a cooking class. He will teach 2 dishes and talk about 1 dish, cooking to create deep satisfaction with your food. Then Bill Terra from the UK will be talking about developing a macrobiotic food ethic. And in the afternoon, Sachi Kato, who also used to teach at Kushi Institute, is making delicious sauces from around the world. Alex in the afternoon will lecture on the spiral of history. His new book, The Spiral of History, is just out. And after that, Karen Steffen will introduce you to some yoga.
So I'm unmuted now? Correct.
Okay, so let me just see. Somebody is not, yeah, okay. Then in the evening, Susan and Denny Waxman will talk about connections. And on Saturday morning, Junka Lim from Malaysia, she has, we sent around a video in one of our emails. She is making some really gorgeous food. So she's making a cooking classes with Spiritual Kitchen. We're also really looking forward to that. Virginia Harper talking about Crohn's and colitis symptom or disease. Another free discussion session hosted by, and actually there was a free discussion session on Friday evening as well, which I failed to mention. And the free discussion session then on Saturday after Virginia's class, again, gives you the opportunity to interact with each other. Then Christina Perello, Cook Anyway, a cooking class. Of course, most people know Christina and are looking forward to that. Then Kathy Albanese will be speaking on ethical eating. And Karen Steffen will bless us with another yoga session so that we're not only sitting in front of the computer, but have some, physical movement, stretching, which I think is very important so that we don't become like,
Couch potatoes.
Yes, couch potatoes. And in the evening, Ed will give us, spiritual practices, alone or all one, macrobiotic spiritual practices. So that should be very good. And then in the morning, his wife, Naomi, will be showing traditional Japanese food, making some food, and Ed will also talk about some umeboshi.
How to make umeboshi plum.
How to make umeboshi. Then after that, we will have a YouTube session made by Mark Leonas on Christian Elwell's South River Miso factory and rice presentation. So they will talk about rice and his South River Miso over there. So I'm also looking forward to that. And then we will have our this year's Michio Kushi's Peace Prize keynote presentations in the afternoon at 2. First with Jane Kincannon Stanchich and Leno Stanchich, and after that with Michael Potter. And then the actual, awarding of the Peace Prize will happen at 4. So this was a little bit of a change to the previous schedule that we had put up. So the keynotes will be at 2, and then the award of the Peace Prize will be at 4. Then we will have the auction, and we have also a wonderful skit where Vern Verona has agreed to play Michio Kushi, impersonate Michio Kushi, and he is always doing such a fabulous job that I hope you will stay to listen, because he is just incredible in impersonating Michio. So that is that. Okay. Then Ed, if you could say a few words about Carol, and then Carol will go on. Meanwhile, I will go into the kitchen and set up for the short cooking class.
Thank you, Bettina. Now, before that, I just want to make a couple of comments. The open forums with Donna and Mark, these kind of take the place of conversations in the dining hall that we all have during the actual summer conference, expressing our views, our opinions about various things. This also takes the place of walking around the campus in groups, chatting, talking, expressing our views and opinions. And also, and especially, this takes the place of after-hours cafe. So I don't know, Mark and Donna, are you proposing friends have refreshments during these after-hours, the forums? Please think about that. Tea, coffee, whatever. All right, and then also I wanted to comment on the South River Miso video. Mark Leonas went out to South River Miso, nearby in Massachusetts, and filmed an 1.5 hour video with Christian Elwell on the property. So when you watch this video, you'll see the beautiful farm, the amazing traditional handcrafted miso factory, unlike anything else in this country. Unlike any, almost anything else in this time period. Actually, it's a throwback to the hundreds of years ago. But you'll see this, and Christian will be explaining as if you're doing a virtual tour. Please don't miss this, because Mark filmed the rice field. It's a rice paddy with amazing awned rice, brown rice growing. Not too long ago, when it was in its very beautiful stage of beginning to flower. So you'll see this, and we were hoping to actually make a trip out there this year, but next year we'll do that. But this video will be the next best thing. So I just wanted to comment on those things. Please mark them in your calendar, the virtual forums with Mark and Donna, and then also the South River Miso video. It's an 1.5 hour, something like a documentary movie, really. Don't miss it. So now I'd like to introduce Carol Louro. Carol is the longtime director of macrobiotic education on the south coast of Massachusetts, on the way from Boston to Cape Cod. The area is called New Bedford, very historic village. That was the village of Moby Dick, where the whalers went out, they left from there. And so Carol has been leading and guiding through her cooking, through her counseling, through sponsoring teachers like Micho. Micho has spent so many hours in New Bedford with Carol and her family, teaching and spreading and guiding many hundreds of people for many years. So Carol has recently published a semi-autobiographical book, just came out, about her adventures with macrobiotics. And many of your favorite names are in there, with many stories about their exploits with her in the wonderful south coast of Massachusetts. So Carol, please say hello, and please show everybody your book, and please take it away. Okay, we can see you and hear you. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Ed, and hello, everybody. And I'll show you my book. My granddaughter drew it. Can you see it?
Put it up a little higher.
I'm not good on the computer. How is it, Bettina?
We can't see the
Lower
title.
now.
Hold it lower now.
Oh, hold.
There.
Perfect. Don't move. Perfect.
Tell me when.
Good.
Perfect.
Okay. So the title is Kale Soup, but my journey from music to macrobiotics. And as a child, we traveled with the big bands, and I spent a lot of time backstage and met a lot of people. Most importantly was a woman named Lena that sewed for the Rockettes, and she had numbers on her arm. And I asked her about it, and she hugged me and she told me a little bit, and she hugged me and said, God got me out and God brought you to me. And because of you, I'm not backstage alone. And her telling me that all my life makes me feel like if we keep our hearts and minds open, God brings people into our lives for special reasons. Leno Stankage wrote a chapter in this book. And Leno, we feel, well, he and I feel, is my cousin because he looks just like my grandfather and he acts just like my grandfather. All my cousins said it, all my father said it, and he was so kind to write a beautiful story and heartwarming story. And thank you, Leno. And I want to say, Micho, yes, many people in our area would see Micho. We were near Boston, so they would go to Micho's house. I would go with them. Micho would give lectures here, and I have pictures in my book. And I have a picture of Leno and Jane and my grandfather, and I have the picture of Micho's last lecture here. And actually, over his head, we didn't realize it till the picture came out, is the word heaven. So I've got that picture in here.
Can you hold up, Carol? Hold it up.
Oh, the picture?
Yeah, and Leno's picture, and also don't forget my handsome picture sometime.
Oh yes, I put Ed's picture. And I have to say, because of Ed, I started Macrobiotics. But I don't know if you can see. Can you see?
Yep.
That's Micho, and upstairs, I mean on the top, is Ed giving his very first lecture in New Bedford. And because of Ed, we started teaching macrobiotics. He asked me, I said, I can't do that. And he said, who in New Bedford knows how to make miso soup? And I said, oh, you're right, no one. And so we started, and I studied with him, and he came, and he stayed with us all these years, Ed.
Yep, that's
and
true.
He's behind so many people here that have gotten well. We have a story, there's another chapter in here about a man that had 3 cancers, 2 lymphoma cancers he had not long to live, and that was 25 years ago. He's still doing well, and Ed and Micho guided him. And here, Micho, well, everywhere Micho is well loved, but he never judged anybody with the diet. One time he was asking someone if he was eating flour or if he was eating sweets, and the man kept saying, no, no. And Micho said, you living saint. And then the man said, well, I started binging on this and that because he was embarrassed. And then he saw how kind Micho was and how Micho didn't say, you shouldn't be doing that. He just explained what was happening. He was getting too tight and he needed a little bit more other things to lighten up. And there was a man that was so there's a spiritual man in the area, and he said to me, all I want is for Mr. Kushi to see my son. His son was in intensive care. He said, all I want is for Mr. Kushi to see my son, and I know I've done everything God wants me to do for him. Well, Micho, out of respect, wouldn't go to the hospital, so they took pictures of his son. Micho came to my house, looked at all the pictures, gave the advice on what to do, and they said, the doctor said my son would never be able to swallow again. And Micho said, do this, this, and this, he will swallow. They said it to him 3 times, and 3 times Micho just explained it gently and never said, what did I tell you? And they remember that. That man, that was a young man, he's in his 50s now. He's doing well. He has no health problems. He got out of the hospital. And there's so many stories here. Ed knows, right? We have so many miraculous stories of people. And I feel blessed to have been involved with Ed, Mark Van Kallenberg, Tom Monty, and everybody. And Leno and Jane, I mean, you've all been, Bettina, you've all been so gracious to me. You all live the macrobiotic lifestyle and guide me. That's the truth, right, Ed?
It's absolutely true. You were the center, and everyone gravitated toward you.
Because of all of you.
Yeah.
All of you. But I'm happy with the book. I have to say, many people have already bought the book and they've liked the book. It's not a big book, it's a small book. And I have to say, my father started Macrobiotics. He had a tubercular kidney. He went on the diet thinking he was going to have his kidney removed and do better. He ended up never having his kidney removed, lived until 92 years old, and then started studying with Micho and was bringing home all the lectures that Micho gave on Boylston Street. Where in the church there, Ed?
The Arlington Street Church and the No Center in Boylston Street.
And I gave some to Alex. Remember, Alex? I gave you some of those teachings from Micho. And that's how I started reading it, and I just got involved, and I loved it, and I love the idea of world peace, and I love the philosophy of macrobiotics, of how to just be gentle with one another and just be happy with one another.
Carol was the... Yes, please.
What?
Carol, you have really a wonderful community around you because you have really made this your life, and you know, nobody's ever perfect, and it's not about that, but you have helped so many people, and you really are going out to people and cooking for them and doing this and that and arranging things. So I mean, you have done really a phenomenal job in being a hub in your area.
Thank you, Bettina. Yes, I went into people's houses and I cooked for them a few times a week, all the medicinal dishes. And I have to say, even their dogs liked me. They used to, one was a golden retriever, and he kept leaning against me and I kept pushing him away and he kept coming back. And everybody helped everyone, and you know that, Bettina. You did many cooking classes, many consultations, and everyone in my class, yes, in this area, everyone helped everyone. Everybody was there for everyone, and it was just a nice community. And I had people coming to me. People came to me, Bettina knows, people came to me for over 12, 14, 16 years. They just kept coming. Even people that weren't sick, they just liked everybody that was around and just liked being with one another and having fun.
It is really wonderful. Thank you, Carol.
If I may comment quickly, Bettina, the book is called Kale Soup, My Journey from Music to Macrobiotics. Music means her father, Lionel Soares, who was the kind of like the Dalai Lama of macrobiotics in the south coast of Massachusetts, okay? Kale soup is the Portuguese special dish, by the way. And Carol and her family are, originally their ancestors are from the Azores. Carol, is that right? The Azores.
Azores, Pico, and Lisbon. And I
Yeah.
have to say, my godfather left me his farm, and my son lives on some of the farm, and they had the well checked, and the well was completely clean, because he used to say, corn's not going to be corn anymore, mark my words, because they put too many chemicals to, kill the bugs. Bugs are good for the corn. And you get it,
Yep.
and it's all clean. And yes, my father started macrobiotics in the area with his kidney, and he was well loved. So
Kale soup is, again, traditional Portuguese, the recipe, right, Carol? You grew up eating it. And with macrobiotics, now you made it 100% vegan.
right.
And it's a very healing dish. So we thought that would be a really cute title for her book. And I think she has a kale soup recipe in the book, if I'm
I
not
have
mistaken.
2 kale soup recipes, not 1, 2.
All right.
2, and I have a story about you and me with kale soup, how I made miso like kale soup, and I gave it a great big bowl, because Portuguese, we ate kale soup with bread for dinner. And I said, you want another bowl? And it's like, no wonder you're too young. I couldn't figure out why. But also John Mann has an article in the book also.
John David Mann.
John David Mann.
But I think we will go on to the next session, so that we will not go way.
Great. Thank you very much, Carol.
Thank you,
so much.
Bettina. Thank you, Ed.
On, in other places for whom it is very late. All right, so if you have received my email, and again, if you wish to put it on speaker view, then you can see this a little bit more close up, and let me do that myself. Okay, give me a second here. All right. So I will show a quick how to make summer rolls. That recipe should have arrived. Can you hear me fine? Somebody could let me know.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So a quick recipe of summer rolls, which I have shared in another class recently, but it is a wonderful recipe and it goes really quickly. And what we're using is, I'm just making a small amount here, a shiitake mushroom. Shiitake mushrooms, really wonderful in antiviral qualities, boosting the immune system, but also anti-cancerous and lowering cholesterol, and also taking out excess salts out of the body. Onions, really wonderful for the body, especially for the middle organs, and also the onion family. Of course, leek is part of the onion family as well. Very high in polyphenols, which are really great for the immune system as well. Then we have carrot, a little bit of ginger. We have some peas here. And actually, one thing that is not in the recipe that I'm going to use is a few pine nuts, simply because I like them, but also pine nuts, the natural resin in the pine nuts is very good, and antiviral, antiseptic, antibacterial. And here I have mixed tofu with a fork. I just mashed the tofu with a fork, and I added a little bit of chickpea miso to this. So The chickpea miso inside looks like this, but you can use another miso if you prefer, but a lighter miso works better. So let me start the cooking process, the cutting process real quick. I'll start with the mushroom, taking off the stem and then cutting the mushroom into thin slices. And then cutting a little bit of ginger. Now ginger is a little bit warming, so if you feel it's too heating, don't use ginger. Maybe use a little bit of lemon juice at the end to make this dish a little bit cool, more cooling. But I like a little bit the spicy flavor in there, but again, that is optional. And I prefer actually ginger pieces rather than ginger juice. So I'm just cutting that into very thin matchsticks and then across into very, very small pieces, very small dices. And wiping your cutting board in between to not contaminate from one to the next. Okay. Then cutting the carrot into matchsticks. And when we're cutting them smaller, of course, they cook more quickly, and especially in the heat of the summer as we have it here right now, cooking more quickly seems to be more appropriate. Long cooking dishes feels a little bit too heavy, so I am just cutting them very, very finely. And carrots, of course, high in vitamin A, or actually in beta-carotene, which is provitamin A. Provitamin of vitamin A will be made into vitamin A in the body when needed, but if it's not needed, it will simply stay a provitamin, because actually if anybody has excess vitamin A in the body, that can be toxic. So if you have it in provitamin, it will never be toxic. Then I will cut a little bit of onion. I think half of an onion will suffice. As I said, the onion family members are very high in polyphenols, which is a group of micronutrients that help in the immune system and in cleaning the body. And finally, cutting the leek. And usually I separate the leek. And leek, by the way, is very good because it's, so compact. The onion is more round. This one is more compact. So this one is better for tight places in the body like the neck. So very good for throat problems, but the white part has less vitamin C. The green part has more vitamin C, and vitamin C, of course, being an important antioxidant for boosting our immune function as well. So I want to add the green part later in the cooking process than the lighter part, and hence I separate the parts of the green and the white part of the leek. And I'm not actually going to cut the whole leek because I will just make a very small quantity. So this is the lighter part. And then I will cut a little bit of the darker green part. So don't throw the dark green part away, especially if it's cut finely and cooked less than 2 minutes. Then the vitamin C can be really boosting to the body, can be really strengthening our body. And so I will keep that separate. Okay. Then one more second here. Right. Now I'm going to heat the skillet, add a tiny bit of olive oil. You can add another oil of your choice. The more oil you add to a saute in the summertime, of course, the more warming the dish will be. So if you don't want the dish to be terribly heating, adding just a tiny bit and maybe using some water along with it may be a better choice. And of course, because I'm not in an official kitchen, I am not tying my hair back or, doing any of the other precautions that I would do in an official cooking class, but this is just for my own consumption here. So then I will add the ginger and the mushrooms by themselves first. The mushrooms like to have a little bit of space when cooking before we add other ingredients. And what did I do with my chopsticks here? I like to use chopsticks for cooking, but you may use other implements, whatever works better for you. And I will add a pinch of sea salt. Sauteing the mushrooms until they become a little bit crisp, and unfortunately it's difficult to see exactly what that looks like in the pan, but you just move them back and forth until they crisp up a little bit. Then adding the onion and the lighter part of the leek. And sauteing is an active process of moving the vegetables. That means it has more of an activating effect in general on the body. I'll add another pinch of salt to this. And this activation means it's, if you have to do a lot of just quiet mental work, then doing too many sautés can feel a little bit not quite as appropriate. So for a lot of quiet studying, it's better to do some more quiet cooking methods, not so activating cooking methods. But if you have a lot of like social interaction, a lot of, other physical things to do, then sautés can be really great. Then I'm adding the carrots as well. And at the end, I'll add the green peas and the green part of the leeks. I'll add a little bit of water to this. And just cooking it enough so that the carrots soften up just a moment. And then adding the green part of the leeks, as well as the green peas. Cooking it for one more moment. And you may wish to taste if it needs a little bit of a taste adjustment. You can add for flavoring, of course, another pinch of salt. You could add soy sauce, tamari, or a little bit of Ruma vinegar. And as I said, also a little bit of lemon juice sometimes tastes very nice. So, take a quick taste. This is fine, and this is what it looks like right now. However, since it is very hot and we have to move along here, I have the same dish already pre-prepared, so I can show you how to make the rolls real quick. So then I'm using this spring roll rice wrappers. They are basically made from rice flour with a little bit of, what is it? A little bit of tapioca flour, but generally it's rice flour. And what I need is a bowl of water. I'll dip the rice wrapper in, and then I need to work really quickly, placing it on my station and taking a little bit of the filling, placing it into the center. You can fill it less or fill it more, that's, personal preference. Adding some of the tofu with the miso. Now you can also make dips with this if you prefer, but it's not necessary because there's ginger and miso and a little bit of salt already in there. But if you want, you can make like a soy sauce dipping with adding ginger juice to it or lemon juice or something like that. So just folding it over, rolling it over, and here is our final product. That we can serve like this. So I hope you have enjoyed this very quick cooking demonstration. And now we will go back to Alex and
change the subject.
Thank you, Bettina. That looks very scrumptious.
Thank you.
And the visuals came out great.
Good.
Yeah, so well done. Okay, this spring, I was listening to an audiobook entitled Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art by James Nestor. It was an engaging personal account of a junk food junkie journalist who had recovered his own health through changing to natural foods and proper breathing techniques. In the course of his journey, he sought out and interviewed medical researchers, Hindu swamis, archaeologists, psychologists, Tibetan yogis, and many others who have studied the subject and in some cases improved their own health and well-being. Among the many subjects he touches on, the material on the corrosive effects of refined grains on physiology, digestion, and breathing, especially since the widespread adoption of white flour in the early 1800s was astonishing. I highly recommend it. As a rule, I don't usually read or listen to very many how-to books, preferring instead history and fiction. But in the course of listening to Breath, I realized that I had selected it because the title unconsciously resonated with the two most pressing crises affecting the nation today. Number one, the COVID pandemic, a largely respiratory disease that affects the lungs and can lead to disability and death. And secondly, the George Floyd murder, in which his last words, "I can't breathe," triggered a national and worldwide movement for racial justice and equality. Those of you who have studied Nine Star Key may know that this year, 2020, is governed by what we call seven metal, which in Far Eastern philosophy and medicine correlates with the lungs and with breathing. Thus, it is no accident that contemporary affairs related to respiration assume center stage. Next year is a six metal year, also corresponding with the lungs, and we can expect these issues to remain active, perhaps not spreading as much outwardly as this year in seven metal, but going deeper inwardly, as metal 6 is a more yang type of condensed energy. Another key resonance with breathing and the lungs this year is the gridlock in Washington, D.C., where partisanship has characterized Congress for many years. This year's current logjam in the face of a pandemic and looming economic collapse is striking. How does this relate to the lungs? In the Yellow Emperor's Classic, the great medical text from ancient China, the organs of the body are likened to various departments of state. The heart is the emperor governing the body as a whole. The liver is the general of the body who manages day-to-day operations and ensures its overall safety and well-being. So what official or government department corresponds with the lungs? On a macroscopic scale, it is often said that the rainforest, with its amazing diversity, are the lungs of the earth. But what are the lungs of society? In the Yellow Emperor, the lungs are the prime minister and the legislative function. Here in America, we don't have a prime minister, but we have a Speaker of the House and a majority leader of the Senate. Broadly, the lungs of the United States are the twin chambers of Congress. The Senate is the left lung, the slightly smaller, more powerful chamber, while the House of Representatives is the right lung, the larger, more expanded chamber. Together, their job is to carry out the will of the people, to ensure the steady flow and balance of revenues and expenditures, and keep the body politic healthy. But like a COVID patient in the ICU, Congress today is stagnated, immobile, and on virtual life support. Of all the momentous issues of the day, immigration, healthcare, the economy, racial justice, abolition and control of nuclear weapons, and global warming and climate change, the nation's lungs are not working. In Nine Star Key, we often call the metal energies in autumn the harvest spots or positions because they correspond with the traditional harvest season. In a 7 or 6 metal year, you tend to reap what you have sown. If you have been conscientious and planted your seeds and tended them over the summer, you usually enjoy an abundant harvest. If you have neglected them or been careless, you may reap a poor harvest. This year and next, as a society, we will harvest what we have sown. At the polls this autumn, the American people will deliver their verdict on the White House and Congress, and the incredible bad karma of the last 4 years may be resolved. And next year, outstanding problems related to the pandemic, historical racial injustice, and climate change may finally be addressed in a comprehensive, magnanimous way. The positive qualities of 6 metal. What else can we do to breathe again? Number 1, as the book Breath suggests, is to eat simply a plant-based diet. More than anything else creates optimal health and well-being and proper energy exchange at a personal and societal level. Balanced food will strengthen the microbiome in our large intestine, and as the complementary organ to the lungs, strengthen it as well. It will also strengthen the macrobiome, the larger planetary environment, atmosphere, and cosmic energy field, of which we are all a tiny part. Number 2 is to engage people actively by sharing our thoughts and experiences in a bright, positive manner, and to listen respectfully to their own. And number 3 is to take time to enjoy nature. Hike in the woods, walk by the seashore, inhale the flowers, or gaze at the stars. Despite all of the crises, craziness, and sadness around us, life goes on, and we can still marvel and appreciate its order, beauty, and radiance. Years ago, during the Vietnam War, another stagnant era of national and international gridlock, the government accused peace marchers and protesters of conspiracy to overturn law and order. Instead of shrinking from this accusation, as I recall, we owned it and we reveled in the concept of conspiracy that comes from the Latin word conspirare, which literally means, quote, to breathe together, unquote. We proudly joined together in nonviolent action to change unjust law and immoral order and authority. I like to think that the current pandemic is a dress rehearsal for worldwide cooperation against global warming, climate change, and nuclear weaponry in the years ahead, in which case we shall all breathe a little easier. Finally, I will leave you with one further discovery. This spring, while doing some breathing exercises, I timed my breath and found that I breathed about 18 times a minute. That came out to 1,080 breaths an hour and 25,920 a day. I checked a medical database and found that the adult average is about 25,000 breaths a day. So at least in one metric, I was perfectly normal. That corresponds almost exactly with the 25,800-year cycle of the precession of the equinoxes that is now climaxing, and which Miso used to lecture on at great length. I'll have more to say about this cycle in my lecture on the spiral of history later this week, but suffice it to say that our rhythms mirror those of the cosmos every day. Just by breathing naturally in and out, yin and yang, we connect at a deeper, invisible level with each other. We recreate, relive, and renew the universal history of life on this marvelous planet.
Thank you, Alex. Wonderful. And yes, I mean, we are at the end of another 25-year, 1,000 cycle, so which is, I think, fairly clear in terms of, all these unusual changes happening at this time. However, as I said in the very beginning, they are also, as much as there's crisis, there's opportunity. And Alex, you were talking about the rainforest, and actually something that has been going on while we have been all, so busy with the COVID-19, etc. The rainforest is, while everybody is not looking, at unprecedented amounts being flattened. It is really scary. And so if you feel, to speak out against that or something, please do, because these are the lungs of our earth and we need them very much. And another quick note on my cooking class, I mean, in September, starting in September, I will also start teaching online cooking classes again. Usually I think it will be Tuesdays. You can check it out on my events page at Culinary Medicine School. And then Edward, would you introduce Donna and Mark, please?
Okay, are we live?
Yes.
Okay, great. Donna Clifford is a registered nurse for over a quarter of a century, living outside of Boston in the well-known, mysterious, famous place called Salem, Mass. Beautiful spot on the North Shore. And Donna had a very recent amazing experience. She's a graduate of our Kushi Institute program and also our Planetary Health Level 4 program, and is helping people in her community for many years with macrobiotics, in addition to her nursing work. But she had recently an experience with the frontline response to COVID-19 because she was drafted to help people with that condition this past spring. So Donna will be sharing that, and Donna will be leading the free discussions, the cafe, the Macrobiotic Cafe discussions during our conference this year. So with that, I'd like to introduce Donna Clifford, and Donna, please share with everybody. Thank you.
Let's see, Donna, where are you? Okay.
Okay, here I am.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Bettina,
Hi.
your class was great. I would like to say before I speak about COVID, how wonderful it is to be together with all of you. I find it to be very important for me to connect with other people who we all have this common interest of macrobiotics, so we can inspire each other and be with each other and share this knowledge that we don't share with many other people in our outside lives. So thank you for the opportunity. Very glad we didn't have to forfeit the conference this year, that we were able to have technology to bring us together. With that said, I'd like to say that I am a nurse in Salem, and I work in endoscopy, where mostly dealing with the colon and the lungs. And when COVID hit, we were told that we would be deployed to the front lines because nurses were needed. And my department in endoscopy closed because non-essential procedures were not going to be done. Unfortunately, this is, how hospitals make money, is through procedures and surgery, all which have shut down. The hospitals were only taking care of COVID patients. So about a week before I was deployed to the front lines, I began to try to increase my immune system through macrobiotics. And my diet at that time, I think, was perfect as I could have it. Very little eating out in restaurants, and we had just come off the summer conference, and I had all kinds of new recipes. So I began to have some umesho kuzu, and when I would bring my thermos of tea to work, I would plop a little umeboshi pit inside of that. I increased my miso soup, you know, shiitake tea. I did just little things to help boost my immune system. Well, I have to say, what happened on the front lines, the most horrific scenes I have ever seen as a nurse, almost 40 years in nursing. This virus is very aggressive, spreads very easily, is not a hoax. It was quite shocking to me, and many times I came home and would just collapse in tears of how I saw people dying alone. It was torturous for these poor patients. One patient was dying alone, and the doors are all shut because the virus would spread, and I could hear him crying through the doors that were shut that he was thirsty, and they weren't letting him have any liquids, and I was not going to let him die thirsty. I went into that room. I was fully garbed with all the PPE that I could wear, and I had to lean over to him for him to take the straw, and when I did that, he gasped, either a cough or a sneeze, I'm not sure. It was very quick, and I turned my head, although probably not soon enough. About 3 days later, I came down with a little sore throat, and I had just given a presentation the night before, and I thought maybe I had strained my throat, not even thinking that COVID, because, you know, macrobiotic people are invincible. So I didn't really think that. But as time went on, I got the aches and other symptoms, and I ended up testing positive for COVID, which I'm pretty sure came from that blast that patient had. And I do believe another worker that I worked with also had COVID. She had more underlying conditions. She was diabetic. She ended up on a respirator for almost 3 months. My time with COVID was short. My symptoms were not as acute. And I do believe that having an immune system allowed me not to be placed on a respirator because I was so strong. And I do believe that I got such a direct hit of virus that, you know, I could feel the breath come right through my PPE. It just wasn't enough to protect me. So, you know, we all need to, you know, wash our hands and wear our masks because that virus is out there. But I do believe that macrobiotics helped me through it. For a long time, I really had no desire to eat. I lost almost 10 pounds within maybe 12 or 13 days. And I really survived on sipping diluted apple juice because the thought of food was just repulsive. Fortunately, you know, I began incorporating a little bit of grain and miso soup and brought my diet back up to be nourishing and back to work. My job has resumed an endoscopy. The numbers are way down now, and I'm no longer working in the front lines. So I just wanted to share that story with you. Just knowing that all the recipes that we'll see this week, which we have such a lineup of wonderful presenters and presentations, to really be mindful of your immune system. We know what hurts our immune system. We know what helps our immune system. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Donna. The planetary health, when the COVID crisis first appeared, contributed the research and studies to solving the problem of natural immunity. And macrobiotics has from the beginning, had the solution to natural immunity. It is the way of strengthening and enhancing our natural immune function. So during the course of this week, you're going to learn many of those new discoveries and how to protect yourself and your family through your diet, through your lifestyle, through your exposure to sunlight and things like that. And Donna is a really amazing example, someone who was courageously going right into the front line and was exposed in that unusual situation for most of us, but recovered perfectly and healthfully after that using macrobiotics. So thank you, Donna, for sharing, and we want you to share more as we go forth from now on, okay?
Thank you.
And thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Mark Leonas. Mark is a graduate of the IMI, International Macrobiotic Institute. He's been involved in macrobiotics since the 1970s. And so he has an extensive background. He lives near Amherst, Massachusetts, not far from the Berkshires, and has become very closely associated with Christian Elwell at the South River Miso Pioneer Place that does for many years, the most incredible handcrafted organic miso made right here in the USA. And also Christian Elwell, the founder, has been experimenting with growing so many different grain and bean and vegetable crops, including brown rice. And I hope all of you will have the chance to go out and visit the rice field and the miso factory in the future, because it's a model for the future. There's no question about that. Everyone who goes there feels uplifted and enlightened, okay? So anyway, Mark made a wonderful video, an hour-and-a-half film, movie, documentary about the rice field and about the wonderful growing and way of life at South River. And Mark will be also, in addition to presenting that, hosting the discussions with Donna as our assistant manager, right? So anyway, Mark, if you're there, I'd like to ask you to say hello and say a few words to everybody.
Yeah, hi everybody. Great to be with everybody. Just like Donna was saying, I reflect on that. It's, we miss each other a lot. The summer conference has always been a big part of my life for the last many years. And I'm glad at least we can do this much and kind of get together again and share our thoughts and ideas and where we're at. And, in the discussion groups, I encourage people to come and share how they're doing and what's going well for them, and any other thoughts they have or interests. I think it's a great opportunity. I do look forward to having the time with the video, which will be on Sunday morning, I believe. And just to say that, the gist of that, and I think of the whole Rice Project, is kind of the interrelationship of spiritual energy and growing things. And this is something that if you listen to Christian talk, it becomes very apparent, because he's been doing this for almost 40 years, growing rice and millet and rye. I mean, the rice paddy is the project that we'll be talking about, but he's definitely experimenting with different kinds of grains and foods and how they absorb spiritual energy from the universe, and how that feeds us and keeps us whole, and makes us stronger, makes our immune system function that much better. So look forward to sharing that and to spending time with you all over the next few days.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, Bettina, thank you. I'm handing it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Mark. That is wonderful. And as I said earlier, Mark and Donna will be hosting the free discussion sessions that are scheduled. If you look at the schedule, which I have sent also in the first email, should be there. And I think, I also want to tell you that it is really exciting for me to see everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but to see a lot of you online and live. And so, yeah, this is really thrilling. And I hope we can have a lot of wonderful interaction during this conference. Are there any questions at this moment? If anybody has a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Or there's also the choice, if you go on the right to participants, there's a choice to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, then I can see that as well. But you can just unmute yourself if anybody has any questions.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Bettina and Alex and Ed. So good to see you all. It's Carol and all the participants. I don't know how to send my chat thing in, my chat sentence. I wrote it, but I don't know how to push it in.
Just when you hit enter or return.
I did, but it doesn't go. Oh, there it is. Lord help us. Thank you. This is
okay, so the recipes, and so I see your comment, Carol. The recipe, the recipe for today was in today's Zoom invite, and in each of the Zoom invite for the cooking classes, you will receive the recipes for that particular cooking class, so that you should have them. Okay, now, if you have any trouble logging on, I'll do my best to check my email up to the time of the actual start of the sessions. I cannot promise that I will check my emails during the sessions, because simply that doesn't work so well. But I'll do the best that I can to help everybody to get on. But again, then I'm also not high techie, so I'm always learning more as we go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, this is Joe Birdsong from Austin, Texas. I see that Leno is our mentor, my wife's and my mentor in macrobiotics, and I'm also a school teacher, and I just came across a suggestion for accessibility. I understand that you're going to be recording and giving us out the recordings of the conference this week, and if I could suggest one of the accessibility would be closed caption. And I don't know if the producers of the films or the recordings have that capacity, but that would be something that would help the hard of hearing, and which I am.
Right, I hear you, Joe, and the producer is me, and I am sorry, I do not have that capability. What I'm recording it now. When the recording is finished, at some point, I will get a notification that the recording is ready for me to upload. I will upload it onto the YouTube dynamic, but I will look if there is anything with closed captioning. I doubt it, but if there is, I will put it in. But if there isn't, then that goes beyond my capability. I'm sorry, but it is certainly a good thought, and I will keep that in mind for future reference. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Bettina, this is Brian in Cleveland, Ohio. The afternoon exercise sessions, are those intended to be participatory or, okay.
Absolutely.
So I'll need some room. I'll need to move away from my desk.
Yeah, so if for the yoga sessions, it would be good to have, a mat on the floor where you can, and a little bit of space around you where you can move, and for the qigong, just standing room. But again, it's it will be participatory, and that's the purpose of it, not just for watching.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? If not, then I think we will call it a good night. Alex said, any last comments?
No, it was great to see everybody, and we'll look to see you bright and early tomorrow morning. What is it, 9 o'clock
Yes,
Eastern time?
Eastern time.
Great.
Yeah, everyone, thank you very much. It's wonderful to have this online community and share together with all of you. So thank you so much, and let's enjoy our week, our beautiful summer outside and our beautiful study together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Sleep well. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,